I struggled a bit setting up the rigging for my Centriphone for GoPro, but through some trial and error came up with what I think is the optimal solution that I'll share with you here. High level, that's 3 2-foot lengths of fishing line tethered to another 8-foot length of fishing line tethered to a handle. Incidentally, see this other video for how to build the DIY Centriphone handle. Start off by cutting 3 roughly 3-foot long lengths of fishing line. Not important to be exact here, but we do need enough slack to be able to tie knots, and we can always trim back later to get to our target 2-foot range. Take that first length of 3-foot fishing line and let's tether it to the first of the 2 wings of the Centriphone using a fishing hook knot. If you're unfamiliar with how to make a fishing hook knot, just Google fishing hook knot and learn away. Give that first line a few tugs to make sure it's good and tight, then repeat that process for the other wing and the nose. Gather the 3 lines, pinching them together about 2 feet away from the Centriphone, and dangle it. Now the trick here, guys, to making sure all 3 lengths of line are equal is not to adjust them from the top. Just keep pinching from the top, but visually inspect the Centriphone, and if one wing appears higher than the next, then just tug down on that one wing that will pull its line through your pinched fingers, and repeat that process for all 3 corners until that Centriphone appears balanced. Now, very important, once you find that perfect balance point, keep pinching, because we are then going to very carefully tie a knot into the end that's going to secure all 3 lines in place so they stay equal. Okay, now that we've verified that that Centriphone is looking nice and balanced, let's commit. Let's get a double and even a triple knot in the end of that line so it doesn't come loose. Remember, we're swinging around sometimes a $500 camera on this line. We don't want it getting catapulted out into rocks or water or wherever you may be filming. Now remember, we were targeting 2 feet of length for this first piece of tether. It's okay if you come up a little bit short or a little bit long, just give it a measure and we can compensate for that when we make our next piece of line. Now grab a fresh piece of line from your spool of fishing line. Don't cut it from that spool yet, just take the line and tether it to your handle. Now the reason we're not cutting the line yet is we want to get a pretty significant length here. We want 8 feet in addition to that 2 feet of rigging we just assembled. So to get that 8 feet here, I'm unraveling the spool on my kitchen floor. I'll measure out 8, probably a little more than 8 feet, so I have some slack with a measuring tape before cutting the line. Okay, so now we've got 2 feet of line coming off of the Centriphone, another 8 feet of line coming off of our Centriphone handle, and the last step is to attach those 2. So take the single line coming off of that Centriphone handle and tie it to the 3 lines coming from the Centriphone. So guys, 10 feet of line does some great things for you, which I'll talk about in a second, but it can be difficult to manage. I'm 6'2", I've got a decent wingspan, and it's still difficult for me to get 10 feet of line aloft. Totally acceptable if you want to shorten the length of the single line to 7 feet or 6 feet. So what specifically does 10 feet of line do for you? 2 things. First, it gives you a much wider field of view. Second, it allows you to shoot at a significantly lower frame rate.